good day, everyone. And if you're watching this on the day it is released, today is Wednesday. So, first, I want to say that this is meant for the help of anyone who wants to achieve their help. If you look at the About section of a page, I do have the email for this YouTube channel. If you have any social issues going on and you want to take a psychological or just practical approach towards improving your life, then this is the channel that you come for. So, thanks for looking out. If you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe if you're looking for more. And don't forget to click that bell, because it's definitely going to make sure that you stay tuned in to the projects that I'm definitely implementing on this page. But anyways, being that today is Wednesday, all right, I've spoken to a handful of people when it comes to a particular set of different problems, but I asked for the permission to speak on the behalf of this particular topic. Now, this topic is specifically about relationships and the animosity or things in which are usually not understood between both people of their relationship mutually. So let's say in this scenario as a case study, there is a boy and girl. Let's say girl is A and the boy is B. On the approach, we have to realize that as other people on the outside of the situation, that this is biased information. So due to it being biased, we're taking a personal approach on the conversation. Automatically, we're receiving information on the perspective of one person. And we have to realize, personally, in my opinion, that when we're receiving a story, we're receiving it out of one of three different ways. And those three different ways are, in particular, her story, his story, the truth. Usually we can get to that third, the truth, by differentiating between both sides of the story. So now that we have that general understanding, we come to the solution. So the solution to the scenario being that there is a communication issue due to what is given the idea of anger. She or he, A or B, initiates the conversation about whatever given topic, a topic of random variables, and the other person finds himself escalating or becoming more angry than initially anticipated when the conversation actually started. And there are funny approaches to it, and there are sensible approaches to it. I gave both the sensible in my understanding, and I gave both the funny. Now, this may sound vulgar, but one of the funny things that I thought about, I was like, let's say, A is the one who is dealing with the issue. Of course, B is dealing with the issue, the guy as well. But the thing about, again, this particular case scenario is that he's in the way, the aggressor in this biased interpretation. So because of that, what do we know from that? Because he's the aggressor, we can imagine that story is interpreted as indefinitely true. Then her goal is to get a message to come across for the benefit of both of them. And of course, his initial goal, we would imagine, due to him still participating in a relationship, is to eventually come to a compromise to where they both could mutually improve as well. And that occurs through communication. So the funny approach that I kind of chuckled at myself was just throw the pussy at them. Like, it is what it is. Like, if y'all are together, if y'all have been together for a certain amount of time, let's say it's been over a year, and we can imagine that over 365 days of the sun going up and coming down, I would hope that if you two have already crossed those thresholds and moved past those boundaries, that maybe you two both are open enough sexually to enjoy that particular recreational thing, So if they have already crossed that boundary together, whether they were virgins or not, the idea is if you two already had sex before and you're having communication issues, throw the pussy at them. Honestly, it's pretty funny to say that, but I mean, think about it. It's not really often, unless there's something very crazy that had happened, for a guy to have had sex and be mad. It's not easy. I mean, I can imagine that if I was in a relationship where that threshold has already been crossed. It's like sex in that scenario is not a thing to be worrying about. So as a result, if I'm angrier more times in a communication with my own woman than I am sensible or approachable, and she was to not spontaneously, if she was to properly or adequately in a way that it didn't seem malicious, if she was to throw herself at me in a way that seemed genuine, then I can imagine after the sex had occurred, then I would be very likely more adept to the idea of having a conversation, especially if she's my woman. If I'm willing to open myself sexually, why would I be able to open myself verbally? It's kind of a given, so it's pretty funny. So I actually mentioned that to her. You know, it's a funny approach, but it's possible it could render a benefit for both of you. So why not? You're giving away something, but he's also giving away something too. It's a give and take. Now, honestly, to get directly to the actual real practical answer to this scenario, in particular, and to make it concise, my ideal as to how to approach this issue is to ask yourself first, what do you want to change? What are you comfortable with and don't need to compromise? And what are you not comfortable with and what must be compromised for the integrity of not only yourself, but for the integrity of the relationship? And you have to learn to value yourself first, because you truly cannot know how to love someone else if you do not know how to love yourself first. So, after coming to that realization, it is also very important to understand that you cannot allow serious detrimental problems to linger. So, because of that, it is highly recommended from my approach, and I've given her personally the acknowledgement to take this advice with a grain of salt. It is not something that is absolute. It is not something that is factual, but it's only my interpretation based upon my experience and the disposition that I live by currently. But I also give that advice with the sincerity that it is the best approach to confront that issue in a practical, rational, and ethical manner. So, in that given situation, you create the scenario of how long do you allow the problem to linger for the sake of potentially helping the other person develop and have the necessary time to think about their side and to simply understand what may be going on with them. But after that time, if it hasn't already passed, make sure they have that time. Once that time has passed, it has to come to a line where you set it indefinitely to where if it is crossed, you two part ways in whatever manner you two see fit. It is unhealthy to proceed in something that is not for the benefit of both people. I, myself, interpret a relationship as being meant for the uplifting of both people within that particular union. And as a result of that agreement, you two work for the growth of both people for the sake of it being not only due to the health benefits for both, but also for the emotional benefit. And if the uplifting and growth process is being more stunted than developed, or in other words, if there is more bad in a relationship than there is good, then it, in my opinion, based upon my experiences, it is psychologically and physiologically unhealthy to proceed in that relationship and committing yourself to a person that is stunting your own development. And one thing I learned online, I'm unsure specifically who said it, but don't quote me on this, but it may have came from Will Smith. I'm unsure. Anyways, there was one phrase I heard a long time ago, I never forget it. And the phrase goes specifically like this. If everybody can do one of two things in your life, one of two, and only one of two, they can either uplift you and raise you higher than you currently are, or they can pull you down. How is this important? There are many, or for others, there are some people in your life that when you think about that person and you apply this to certain people in your life, some people you see that they're uplifting you. Others you see they're dragging you down. So you decide to kind of fast or cleanse. You purge yourself of those toxic people, or at least you will want to. So there are some people that you don't know whether they're uplifting you or they're pulling you down. And usually in those situations, if you don't know, if the person has you stagnant at a particular point in your life, they're not raising you up, they're not pulling you down. Usually they're pulling you down. Just because somebody isn't exactly automatically uplifting you, it's not exactly the actions per se. A lot of times there is, but the actions come from the initiative that creates the principle that is important. Now that I have digressed on that, I say all of that to say, at the end of having that particular thought process about a relationship, how do you go about something where you're dealing with someone who has so much anguish or so much anger or so much chaos that may be going on in their mind? The approach that I have thought of and I have come up with for the benefit of others is this. You create an ultimatum in your mind, and that ultimatum has to be balanced. It has to be equal, not only for that other person or people, but for yourself. And it goes like this. There has to be a compromise to where you two sit down and you reestablish your boundaries. The good that you're okay with or that you like, the bad that has to be removed or changed. And as a result of that, you have to acknowledge what boundaries can be changed on your end or what boundaries you refuse to. As a result of saying that, at the end of that conversation, if they refuse to continue talking or entertaining the idea of your sincerity and the effort that you're putting in to benefit not only yourself, but that individual, if you cannot get your message across despite your desperation to make things better, then automatically it is time for you to move on and move forward, probably without that person. I'm not saying absolutely you should do it. It just, again, it's only my opinion, but it is for the best of your mental health and your growth that you love yourself enough to understand what is needed for you to grow into the person that you are meant to be. So that's the gist of the advice that I've given. And I just want to also say that it could have been, I can honestly say it could have been a lot shorter, but I wanted to make sure that instead of writing a script or instead of taking a structured approach, I wanted to make sure that it came from the sincerity of the raw knowledge that I have developed over the years. I wanted to make sure that it was authentic, and I think I've done a decent job of that. But If you agree or if you like what I was saying, please feel free to leave a like for me. Highly appreciate it in advance. Much love, everybody. Peace, love, and positivity. Those are the things that I strive for, and I have learned to appreciate on a day-to-day basis. But I'll definitely be doing this every week. If you definitely want to see more, hey, you can always subscribe. I view all of the subscribers as a family, so it's a blessing. With that being said, we definitely have a lot more to talk about. It's only the beginning. Just go ahead and hit the bell on the side, and that way you can just go on this amazing ride with me. With that being said, yeah, you all stay healthy, stay happy, stay smart and powerful, and take it easy. Have a good day.